Carmen. This is a different setup. I never do single book reviews, but I recently finished this book and I think it's really important. It's really well written, but also it deals with very hard topics. And I rarely see any books that deal with these sort of topics, balance complex emotions that well. That's why I really want to recommend this book to everyone out there. I have a lot of thoughts. First off, the book that I'm talking about today is called Fang Siqi's First Love Paradise in English. This is translated by Jenna Tang. I didn't read the English version. I read its original text instead, which is published in Taiwanese, like Taiwanese Mandarin. 房思琪的初戀樂園, and it's by this author called Li Yihan. The premise is about this middle-aged man who is a tuition teacher. He has this history of targeting young female students in his tuition classes. I guess he is charming based on like his descriptions in the beginning of the book. He teaches Mandarin. On the outside, he seems like this very knowledgeable and esteemed gentleman, I guess. He's a teacher, you know, young female students look up to him. They would always joke around saying, this teacher is my ideal type. He was targeting all of these young students. He would start to approach them and he is basically convincing them that this is a real relationship. You are in a relationship with me because I am in love with you. With a girl. The protagonist in this book is called Fang Siqi. So she is a girl who is targeted by this teacher. I really like how the book is presented because it's not really a singular recount of her experience. This book shifts from first person to third person, and then how you learn about her experiences is through her journal. The prose is very beautiful, but because of this writing style, it is also very dark and saddening. It's a very, very sad book. When this book was published in 2017 in Taiwan, it made its rounds, okay? It created so much buzz that in the Chinese book community, everyone was talking about it because in the first few pages, I think in the first page itself, the book tells you that this is based on a true story. I guess all of the buzz generated is on why is this story in a fiction book instead of on the news? Who is the real perpetrator and who are the victims? A lot of speculations. When it first published, I had it on my Kindle and I tried reading it, but I just wasn't in a good space mentally to read it. So it was quite triggering for me. And I didn't even read past the first 10% of the book. So I put it on pause, and years later, now in 2025, when I'm finally ready, I read it, and I very thankfully read this when I was mentally well because I could place some sort of distance with the book. And because of this distance, I was able to appreciate the book for what it is, all of its literary devices and what it is exploring. It explores much more than just sexual grooming. But very important thing that I haven't mentioned is that what made this book so popular? It's because the author took her life after the book is published. After a while, her parents came out to say that the book is actually about her. So it is a semi-autobiographical book. It's not fully fiction. It's just presented in more literary way. But these are her true accounts of what happened to her. People did actually find out who the real perpetrator is in real life. And he is a tuition teacher. It's even more saddening to read the book now after you know that this is real and you're reading from the person who was so heavily traumatized by all of these events. Now let's talk about the book. For me personally, I really enjoyed reading the book. It's different than a memoir. It's presented in a way where you can see a traumatized person saving themselves through words, through literature, whether by reading literature or writing her own so that she can finally organize her thoughts and find some sanity in this world that is so jarring and not real for her. But again, please check all of the trigger warnings before you go into this book because it also talks about physical abuse in relationships. And this happened to another character. Like I said previously, it is not presented solely by the protagonist. It is written in a stream of consciousness style, but also there's kind of a narrator. They shift back and forth very seamlessly. You don't really know who is telling the story. It could be just a narrator, but there are also first-person POV written in this book. I don't know if this is translated well in the English translation. Hopefully it is. But when I read it in Mandarin, it is really, really beautiful. I really like that this book is told in three women's perspectives. perspective, or should I say two girls and one woman. And they are Fang Siqi, the protagonist. The second one is her childhood friend. She went to the same tuition classes. She went to the same school. They went to the same university. They lived in the same apartment building. She led the same exact life as the protagonist, but the only difference is she looks different than the protagonist. The protagonist looks very, very pretty. Her childhood friend is just an average looking girl. In parts of the book, you will follow her POV as well, where she starts from knowing nothing, then witnessing how her friend just starts to slowly become not herself. She actually admires the teacher a lot. So whenever she talks about the teacher with the protagonist, it is very, very painful to read those parts because you know what is going on. To see the protagonist needing to talk about the teacher in a good light to her friend, all of those scenes are the most painful to me, at least. And the third female character that's very prominent in the book is their neighbor, who is a grown-up woman who moved into the apartment building because she just got married to this man. She loves literature. She has a lot of books. She befriended these two girls because they were interested in literature as well. So they would have these sort of small book club sessions, or they would just hang out in her house and they would talk about literature. I think this book really explores how complex it is when you're faced with abuse in a relationship. And if you're sexually groomed, how hard it is to understand the concept of love after that. By the end of the book, I realized there's a deeper layer to these three characters. You could read it this way. I read it this way. These three depictions are all different versions of the self that a victim will want to explore when they are rethinking their trauma. First, we have the self that is always stuck in the age when violence happened to you. So in the book, it's constantly expressed that the protagonist will always be stuck at 13 years old when this first happened to her. And this whole sexual grooming and violence will continuously happen for 5 years. And within these 5 years, you'll see her just stuck at the same spot, at that same place, at the same age, and never progress again. The second self is presented by her childhood friend. If all of these didn't happen to her, how would her life grow out to be? She is the representation of this parallel self, this self that lives in a parallel world where she still has her youth, her childhood, and her complete sense of self. Third, we have the ideal self that the girls are trying to grow up to be, but you'll also see the woman that they want to grow up to be, she is still struggling with problems, with violence in her relationships. And it questions when, at what age do we truly become capable to differentiate love from actions that are clearly not love. I think what really made this an enjoyable read, and when I say enjoyable, I don't mean I enjoyed reading this book, it is a very hard book to read. I was just not okay for 2 days. It's even sad to think about that. Like, I could recover in 2 days when someone spent her lifetime not being able to recover from these ever. It's very, very sad. It's just a very sad book. But I don't know. I really enjoy that this book explores how fragile words are. People who love literature, right? People who rely on literature to find solace. You'll realize through this book that words are very fragile. It could be used to manipulate someone, just like how this teacher manipulated the protagonist. And you'll see how the protagonist makes sense of this. How she started loving literature in the beginning to eventually finding faults and finding contradictions and finding herself to laugh cynically at literature. The teacher uses lines from Chinese literature to woo her, to manipulate her, and she finds beauty in these words. She is swayed by them. She finds them romantic. But there's a part of herself where she's constantly fighting against this as well. She can see the beauty in this relationship, but she can't fathom how violence coexists with this beauty, with this gradual descent of her belief in literature. Eventually, it comes to a point where she just realizes words can't save her anymore. It's a double-edged sword. She fell into this honey trap that is woven with words. With that realization, she comes to a point of no return. I think the author's love for literature and her love for herself really seep through these characters and the whole book. I think everyone should read it once in your life. She was depressed for years. And it's just really hard for her to write the book, but she still wrote it because she thinks it's really important for this story to get out there, so that there are no more young girls who will think these relationships are normal, for them to not doubt themselves, but also for adults to be more aware of this. But yeah, that is my book review. Thank you, Jenna Tang, for translating the book. I was actually waiting for the English translation in 2017. We waited so long until 2024. That's when it finally came out. So yes, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video, which will be much casual and lighter than this. I'm changing my bookshelves, so this is the last time that you're going to see this setup, this white bookshelf. I hope you're having a nice day. I hope you're having a nice week. And if you need help in any way, do seek professional help. The world is here for you. So yeah, bye. See you in my next video.